The cold metal door shut behind him with a loud clang. The human stood alone in the center of the room. His hands were tied with glowing cuffs. The walls were gray and smooth. No windows. No way out. A voice came from a hidden speaker, flat and motionless. Begin fear test. Release the gas. Outside the chamber in a control room, 6 alien scientists watched him. They were tall, thin, with gray-blue skin and black eyes. One of them, Commander Vell, stared at the screen with curiosity. "He will scream in 60 seconds, Vell said. They all scream. The room's lights turned red. Steam hissed from the vents. Green fog rolled into the chamber, thick and slow. It filled the space like a monster crawling forward. This was no normal gas. It was terror. Gas, a chemical weapon built by the alien empire to break minds. It made beings see their worst fears, showed them nightmares. It made them feel like they were dying, again and again. No one had ever lasted more than 3 minutes. The gas reached the human's feet, then his legs, then his chest. He didn't move. He just stood still, eyes open, calm, breathing deeply. The aliens leaned closer to the screen. His heart rate stayed steady. His eyes didn't shake. His muscles didn't freeze. "Is the gas working?" one alien asked. "Double the dose," said Vell. More gas poured in. Now the whole room was filled. The human was hidden in the green fog. A few seconds passed. Then something strange happened. A sound. A low sound. From inside the fog. It was not a scream, it was a laugh. Not wild. It's not crazy. A slow, deep, calm laugh. The alien stared at the screen. "He's laughing." Someone whispered, "That's not possible." The fog cleared a little. The human stood with his hands still bound. His face calm, a smile on his lips. His eyes, bright and full of amusement. He looked directly at the camera. "That's it," he said. "This is your big weapon." Stepped back from the monitor. This has never happened before. One of the younger scientists looked scared. Maybe the gas failed. Maybe it was weak. "No," said another. "We tested it on 20 species. They all broke. It's human. He's different." The human kept laughing. Then he sat down on the floor, cross-legged, relaxed, like he was in his home, not in a torture chamber. He began to hum a song, a soft, slow tune. It was a human song, something old, something from Earth. Aliens were silent, watching, confused, nervous. "Why is he not afraid?" Vell asked. No one answered. On another screen, the computer showed his body stats. Heartbeat, steady. Brainwaves.com, adrenaline, high, but controlled. Fear response, inactive. "He's turning fear into control," one alien said. Like it gives him power. Vell's face grew hard. It cannot be allowed. Increase pressure, begin pain phase. But before they could push the button, something happened. The lights in the chamber flickered. The gas pumps made a strange noise. Then boom, a spark. A small explosion in the corner of the gas system. Red lights flashed in the control room. System failure. Gas overload. Lockdown activated, the computer said. Doors slammed shut. The control room sealed. The scientists were trapped inside with alarms blaring, and on the screen the human stood up. Still smiling, still calm, he spoke again, loud and clear. "You wanted to study fear? Let me show you what it really means." The screen went black. The aliens looked at each other. No one spoke. In that moment, for the first time, they felt something cold in their bones, not because of the gas, but because of the human. He wasn't afraid, and now, neither were the other prisoners watching him through their own cells. Red warning lights flashed across the alien prison. Sirens echoed through the steel hallways. The gas chamber was locked. The control room was sealed. No one could get in or out. Commander Vell stood frozen in the silence. His black eyes stared at the dark screen where the human had last spoken. "He was supposed to break," Vell said softly. "They all break." The other scientists didn't speak. No one knew what to say. In hundreds of tests, no prisoner had ever laughed in the gas, no one had smiled, and no one had spoken back. One technician looked at his data pad. His hands were shaking. His heart rate never went up. Brain activity stayed stable. He didn't enter panic mode, not once. Maybe the gas failed, another said. Maybe. It was old. Vel snapped around. We tested it 2 days ago. The gas destroyed a Zenther warrior in 42 seconds. They begged for death. This human lasted 10 minutes and laughed. They played the video again. They watched the human step through the fog, calm, smiling, breathing deep. They watched him look at the camera and say, "This is your big weapon." And then the system broke. No one had touched anything. No one gave an order. The chamber just failed on its own. Gas lines exploded. Lockdown started. He did something, Vel whispered. He knew it would happen. Aliens stepped forward. Sir, what if we were wrong about humans? Vel turned slowly. Wrong? We thought they were weak. It's unstable, too emotional, but maybe that's what makes them strong. Another scientist spoke up. Their fear works differently. They don't run from it. They grow stronger through it. They opened a file. Human test subject number 17, captured on planet Vrosk 9. Age unknown. Name unknown. Occupation soldier. History incomplete. Threat level. Lode Boole stared at that word. Lode Boole. He deleted it, changed threat level to extreme. We're not dealing with an animal. We're dealing with something worse. It's in a deeper part of the prison, behind thick doors. Another alien watched the human from a hidden camera. She was old, wore no armor. Her eyes were sharper than the rest. Interesting, she said. He didn't fear the gas because he's already seen worse. Her assistant looked confused. But the gas shows your worst fears. She nodded. Exactly. That means his past, his memories. We're more terrifying than our technology. The assistant leaned in. Should we run a memory scan? She smiled. Yes. Let's see what kind of hell he survived. Back inside the gas chamber, the human sat quietly on the floor. The fog was almost gone now. The air was thick, but he didn't care. He looked at the walls, at the cameras. He knew they were watching. He whispered to himself, like talking to an old friend, still using fear as a weapon. Same mistake, again. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and waited. An hour later, 2 robots entered the room. They carried no weapons. It's just a small machine with a glowing headpiece. The human didn't resist. They placed the device on his head. It scanned his brain, pulled memories, showed them on a screen in the observation room. The aliens watched, and for the first time, it became quiet. The screen showed Earth. Cities on fire. Bombs falling, soldiers screaming, a battlefield covered in blood and smoke, children running through broken streets, fires rising, darkness, rain, explosions, and the human walking through it all, covered in wounds, carrying others. Still fighting? These are real? One alien whispered. He lived through this. More memories came. Monsters. Starvation. A child holding a weapon. Friends dying. Families hiding in holes, and through it all, the human never gave up. He kept standing. He kept moving forward. One alien fell back from the screen. His life was worse than any test we ever made. The older alien stepped into the room. She had watched it all. Her voice was calm but heavy. He doesn't laugh at fear because he's brave. He laughs because he knows fear very well, and he already survived it. Back in the chamber, the human opened his eyes, looked straight into the camera, and smiled again. You're not the first to try, he said, and you won't be the last to fail. The lights were dim in the memory lab. The air was cold and still. 6 alien scientists stood in front of the large screen. None of them spoke. The humans' memories were still playing. Fire, screams, war, death. These were not movies, not dreams. They were real. Real things the human had seen. real pain he had survived. Commander Vel stood with his arms crossed. His eyes didn't blink. "How can a creature live through that and stay sane?" he asked. No one answered. In the memory stream, they saw more. The human was just a boy, maybe 10 years old, hiding inside a small hole in the ground. His hands were shaking, his eyes full of fear. Above him, strange machines flew in the sky. Dropped fire from above, whole cities burned. Aliens were invading Earth. The screen changed again. The boy was now older, a teenager. Ran through smoke-filled streets carrying a younger child. His legs were bleeding. Didn't stop. More images, and more horror. A battlefield full of broken machines and dead soldiers. Sky black with smoke. Humans crawling, crying, fighting, but through every memory, one thing was always the same. The human never gave up, even when wounded, even when afraid, even when alone. One alien scientist whispered, "I don't understand. Why didn't he break?" Another replied, "Because he was broken long ago, and he put himself back together." The older alien, the memory expert, stepped forward. She stared at the screen and said quietly, "He doesn't fear death because he met it many times," and walked away. In the gas chamber, the human sat. Still, his eyes were closed. But he was awake. He could feel them digging through his past. He could feel their fear growing. He smiled again. He whispered to the empty room, "You wanted to see what made me. Now you know." Back in the lab, alarms started to blink. The memory machine began to shake. Warning, mental pressure rising. Warning, connection unstable. The human's thoughts were pushing back. The machine was designed to read memories. But it was not built to handle this much pain, this much strength. Suddenly, the screen flashed red. A new memory played, one no one had seen before. A dark room. No light, no food, no sound. The human sat in chains alone. For months he spoke to no one, heard nothing, just waited and still. He didn't break. His mind stayed sharp. His spirit stayed strong. The machine sparked. A small fire burst from the wires. "Shut it down," shouted one alien. "We can't," said another. "His mind is fighting us." And then the screen went black. All power in the room died. Lights off. Systems down. Only silence remained. Then a voice filled the room, the human's voice, but not from a speaker, from inside their minds. "You saw what you wanted. Now feel what I felt." Suddenly, the aliens began to shake. Their eyes widened. Their hands trembled. They were seeing things as memories. But now they were inside them. They felt the fear, the hunger, the fire, the cold. The screams make it stop. "Get it out of my head," another cried. But it didn't. Stop. The human had turned their own machine against them. He wasn't just surviving now. He was attacking. In the gas chamber, the human opened his eyes. His cuffs blinked, then unlocked. The door to the chamber clicked. It didn't open. But it was no longer locked. He stood up, stretched his arms, cracked his neck. He walked to the door, placed his hand on it. He leaned close to the camera and whispered, "I'm not your test subject. I'm your warning." Back in the lab, the aliens lay on the floor. Some were crying, others shaking. Only the older alien woman stood tall. She wiped her eyes and said, "He showed us who he is." Vel stood up slowly, his face pale. "He's not just strong," he said, "he's dangerous." The older woman turned to him and said one word, "Human." End of Part 3, to be continued in Part 4. The unbreakable species, the alien doctors, worked quickly. Machines scanned every part of the human's memory device. Sparks flew. Systems were damaged. The room still smelled of burned wires and fear. But they didn't care about the machines anymore. They only cared about the human. He had survived the gas. He had broken the memory reader. He had sent his own thoughts into their minds. Now, they had to know why Commander Vel stood inside the medical research room. A new scan was playing on a clear screen in front of him. It showed the human's brain. Strange lights moved through it. Signals flew faster than expected. Parts of the brain glowed red, orange, blue, many colors at once. "He's not like any species we've studied," said one scientist. "His fear center is active, but it doesn't shut him down," explained Vel said. The scientist pointed to the screen. "When most beings feel fear, they freeze or run. But his brain turns fear into strength. It helps him think faster, move faster, fight harder." Another alien joined in. "His body releases a chemical when he's in danger. Adrenaline. It boosts his power like a fire inside him." Vel looked at the screen. The word glowed. Species. Human threat level. Extreme condition. Stable danger. Rising in the prison control room. The older alien woman watched the recordings again. This time, she was focused on the other prisoners. Many had seen the human survive the gas. They had seen him laugh. Now, something strange was happening. The prisoners were no longer afraid. They talked more. They stood taller. Some even smiled. One prisoner, a reptile-like alien, whispered, "He beat the gas. Maybe we can too." Another one said, "If he can fight them, maybe we don't have to stay weak." The fear that once controlled the prison was slipping away, all because of one human, back in the medical lab. A new test began. They took a sample of the human's blood. The machine scanned it. What they saw shocked them. "His body repairs itself," said the lead doctor. "Slowly, but it heals stronger than normal. Even his muscles change when damaged." Another added, "It's like his body learns." From pain they zoomed in. Tiny cells moved fast. "Fixing, rebuilding. He adapts," the doctor said. "His body changes to survive whatever we throw at him." Vel clenched his jaw. "So we can't break him." The doctor shook his head. "You can hurt him, but every time you do, he comes back stronger." Meanwhile, in the gas chamber, the human was no longer sitting. He walked in slow circles, thinking, studying, planning. He looked at the walls, counted the cameras, noted the sounds behind each panel, every movement, every sound, every weakness. He spoke out loud, not for himself, but for the cameras. "You don't understand humans," he said. "You think pain stops us. You think fear controls us." He looked straight at one camera. "But you're wrong." In the high council room of the prison, the leaders had gathered. A dozen powerful aliens sat in silence. A large screen showed the human's face. Vel stood before them. "We didn't try to hide the truth. We tried gas. We tried memory scans. We tried fear. Nothing worked." One council member growled, "Then end him. Kill him now." But the older female scientist shook her head. "If you kill him, you'll prove his strength. You'll make him a legend." Another council member asked, "What do you suggest?" She paused, then said slowly, "We need to learn more. We need to understand how many others are like him." Frowned. "You want to capture more humans?" She nodded. "Yes, because if this one is just a soldier, what happens when the real warriors come?" The room went quiet. Back in his chamber, the human stopped walking. He stared at the door. He took a deep breath. Then he whispered to himself, "They think I'm the only one. They have no idea what's coming." The prison was shaking. Not from bombs, not from war, from fear. But not the kind the aliens had designed. This fear was theirs, and it came from one man, the human, in the control center. Commander Vel shouted at his staff, "Seal every cell. Shut down all screens. Stop the spread of his image." But it was too late. The entire prison had seen him fight. They saw him stand, bleeding, smiling, unbroken now. Prisoners in every block were rising, hitting walls, shouting the same name: human, human, human. In the dark metal hallways, one guard ran toward a locked cell. Inside, a prisoner was drawing the human's face on the wall with his claws. The guard stopped. He backed away slowly. Even the strongest guards were now afraid. The fear they once used on others, this was now their own. Inside his chamber, the human stood near the wall. He placed his hand on the cold metal. He had been studying the patterns. The hum of wires, the gas system, the timing of doors, and now he knew exactly what to do. Earlier, he had broken off a small metal pipe during the last fight. He had hidden it under the floor panel. He used it now to open the panel near the wall. Inside were wires, glowing, pulsing. He worked fast. Cut 2. Wires. Twisted them together suddenly. The gas system. Activated, but not inside his room, inside the control center. Warning lights turned red. Terror gas leak in command chamber. The computer voice said. Vel screamed, "What? That's not possible." Too late. The green fog poured into the control room, the same gas they had used to break prisoners. Now it was theirs to breathe. The scientists panicked. One fell to the floor. Another cried out. They saw nightmares, heard screams, felt pain. The same pain they had given to others for years. On a small camera screen in the gas-filled control room, the human appeared. He was standing, calm, watching them, and then he laughed. Vel fell to his knees. His voice cracked. "Turn it off. Turn it off." But no one could move. They were trapped in the same fear chamber they had built, and the human had flipped the switch. Meanwhile, across the prison, cells began to open one by one, door by door, not by accident, by design. The human had hacked the system. He had memorized every sound, every wire, every code. Now he was setting the others free. Prisoners ran through the halls, but not wildly. They weren't just escaping. They were looking for guards, looking for revenge. And the guards, they were running too. Away the human walked out of his cell. He moved calmly through the smoke and noise. Others passed him, cheering, shouting his name. He nodded at them, but he wasn't done yet. Not until he reached the top. He walked straight to the elevator. He knew the way. He had memorized the map from small flashes on the cameras. He pressed the button. The door opened. Inside, he stood alone, and as the elevator rose, he whispered, "They tried to break me with fear, but fear is loyal to me now." Back in the gas-filled control room, most of the staff were unconscious, but one screen still worked. It showed the human in the elevator coming for them. "Commander," Vel crawled toward the emergency override. His hand was shaking, but it was too late. The door behind him opened. Smoke poured in. A shadow stood there. The human Vel looked up, weak and coughing. You were just a test subject," he whispered. The human stepped into the room. "No," he said. "I was your lesson." The control room was full of green gas. Machines sparked. Lights blinked red. Bodies of alien officers lay on the floor, shaking, coughing, gasping, and in the middle of the room stood the human commander. Vel tried to crawl backward. His mask was broken. His eyes were red from the gas. He raised his arms slowly, begging, "Stop, please. We surrender." The human stared at him, calm, silent. Then he stepped forward and kicked the weapon from Vel's hand. "You built this place with fear," he said. "You thought fear would keep you in power." He leaned down, looking Vel in the eyes. "But fear only works when you're on the outside of it." Behind him, prisoners were flooding the halls. Doors were wide open. Sirens were still blaring, but no one was running anymore. They were marching together, free, back in the observation room. The old female alien scientist watched the screens in silence. She saw the human walking through the smoke-filled corridors, like a ghost of war. He didn't look like a hero. He looked like a message. Outside the prison walls, ships began to land. Not alien ships, human ships. A rescue signal had been sent. Hidden deep inside the prison's systems, the human had sent it. When he hacked the control room, now the signal was answered. The doors of the human ships opened. Soldiers stepped out, calm, trained, cold-eyed. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. They were here to collect their own. The humans stood at the main gates of the prison. Now Vel was dragged behind him in chains, the same chains used on prisoners. The alien guards were gone. Some captured, others fled, and the prisoners, they were no longer prisoners. The leader of the human rescue team walked up to him. "Ready to come home?" she asked. He nodded. Double quotes, yes. but leave this place standing. She raised an eyebrow. Why? The human looked back at the broken towers, the torn banners, the burnt symbol of the alien empire. And then he said, because I want them to remember what happened here. I want every star system to look at this place and know what happens when you try to break a human. As the ships rose into the sky, the human stood at the edge of the landing ramp. He looked down one last time at the prison, now silent, now broken. He whispered, you wanted fear. Now you'll feel it. 1 week later, across the galaxy, the footage spread. A man alone, surviving every weapon of fear. A man who turned gas into a joke, beasts into prey, pain into power, and prisons into ashes. One message was repeated again and again in every language. Do not test Earth. Do not test humanity. Deep inside the alien prison, heavy metal doors opened slowly. Behind them, 2 large cages rolled forward on magnetic tracks. Inside each cage, a deadly creature growled in the dark. They were not animals. They were weapons, sharp claws. It's black. Skin, red eyes, 6 legs, no fear, no mercy. The aliens called them Karnaks, predator beasts from a dead planet. They were used to destroy prisoners who caused trouble. Now, Karnaks were being sent to kill one human. Commander Vel stood in the control room with cold eyes. Begin test. Okay, open chamber doors. Release the Karnaks, he said. An officer looked. Unsure, sir? He has no weapons. Vel replied, exactly. Let's see how long he lasts without one. In the gas chamber, a human heard the door click. He turned. The lights flickered. A deep growl came from the hallway, then dash thud. Thud, thud, too. Karnaks crawled into the room. Their claws scraped the floor. Their eyes locked onto the human. The door behind them slammed shut. Now, it was just him and the beasts. The human didn't run. He didn't scream. He just looked at them. Slowly, he smiled. From the control room, the aliens watched the screen. He's not even afraid, someone whispered. Vel said nothing. His hands tightened behind his back. The human took 1 step back. His eyes scanned the room. His mind worked fast. Beasts growled louder. They were hungry. One of them lunged forward, fast. The human dodged barely. The other beast attacked from the side. He jumped over it, rolled on the floor, landed near the wall. He grabbed something, a small metal panel. That had broken off during the gas explosion. It wasn't a weapon, but in his hands it became one. He moved quickly. Hit one Karnak in the face with the sharp edge. The beast roared in pain. The second one charged. The human rolled under it, then stabbed upward. Green blood splashed the floor. He jumped back, breathing hard. The beast circled him again. Back in. The control room, one alien stepped back from the screen. No prisoner has ever wounded a Karnak before. Another said, he's not fighting with strength. He's fighting with strategy, Vel growled. He's using fear against them. Inside the chamber, the human stayed calm. He made small sounds. Footsteps, breathing, a rhythm. The beasts followed the sounds, then silence. He hid behind a corner of the chamber. The Karnaks split up to find him. That was their mistake. The human leapt from the shadows, landed on one beast's back, stabbed it again and again. The other beast roared and ran toward him. The human jumped off just in time, and the second beast slammed into its injured partner. Both creatures fell. The human didn't stop. He smashed the metal into their heads again and again until both beasts lay still. Dead silence. Blood on the floor. The human stood, chest rising and falling, tired but still standing. He looked at the camera. Send more, he said. The control room was silent. The aliens didn't know what to say. He had no weapons, no help, and still, he won. Vel turned to the memory scientist. What is he? She replied. He is human. Across the prison, other inmates had watched the battle on their own screens. They saw the way he moved, the way he fought, the way he survived. They whispered his name. even if they didn't know it. The human, the one who laughs at fear. He killed the Karnaks. Hope began to spread. Fear began to die in his chamber. The human sat down again. He cleaned the blood from his hands. He looked at the wall, said quietly, "They thought monsters would scare me. They don't know. I've seen worse." The alien prison was no longer silent. Whispers filled the halls. Whispers about him, the human, the one who survived the gas, who laughed at fear, killed the Karnaks with nothing but metal and willpower. Now, prisoners who once sat in corners with heads down were standing, watching, talking. Even the guards felt it. Something had changed inside his chamber. The human sat cross-legged on the floor. His hands were calm, his breathing steady. The green blood of the beasts was still on his pants. He looked at the camera. "You built this prison with fear," he said. "Now your fear is leaking back in." Aliens in the control room watched his every move. Commander Vel growled, "He's turning the other prisoners. If we don't stop him now, we'll lose the entire block." The memory expert stepped forward. "It's already started," she said. In cell block 3, a four-armed prisoner stood tall and shouted, "He beat the beasts. He made them bleed." Another prisoner, from a bird-like race, whispered, "He didn't run. He made fear run from him." Soon prisoners began hitting the walls, making noise, calling out, "Human, human, human." The guards panicked. Alarms screamed. Security drones flew through the halls, but the prisoners kept chanting. The human's courage was spreading, not like an idea, like a virus. Back in the control room, Council watched the riot begin. "This is not possible," one alien said. "Fear was our control system." Vel shouted, "Then we need something stronger than fear, something that will destroy him in front of them." The older scientist shook her head. "No. If he dies now, he becomes a martyr. A symbol. He already is." One council member asked, "Then what do we do?" She replied, "We break the symbol. We'll make him look weak." That night, they sent in 2 guards, big, armed, silent. They entered the human's chamber while he sat still. "Come with us," one said. The human stood. No fear, no words. Just eyes like ice. They brought him to a room with bright lights and cold floors. It was not a test room. It was a stage. Dozens of prisoners were forced to watch from screens. This was a show, a warning, a trap. Commander Vel's voice echoed through. "The prison, this human is not a hero. He is alone, weak, and finished." They dropped a large creature into the room. Not a beast, a warrior. One of their own. Huge, trained, armored. The human had no weapons. Still, he smiled. The fight began. The warrior rushed forward. The human dodged, moved fast, kicked his leg. Duck, punch, roll. Prisoners watched, holding their breath. Then the human was hit. He flew across the floor. He didn't stay down. He stood back up. Blood on his lip. One eye closing, still smiling. The warrior attacked again. This time, the human used his weight, turned his pain into power, flipped the warrior onto the ground. The prisoners cheered. He's still fighting. He's not staying down. Thud. Alien warrior tried to stand. The human grabbed a broken piece of armor, swung it hard, crack. The warrior fell. Didn't move. The human stood above him, breathing hard. Victorious, the control room went silent. "You just made him stronger," old scientist said, again. That night, every cell block was louder than ever. No one was afraid now. The human had become more than just a man. He had become a message. Fear can be beaten, and once that message spreads, it can't be stopped. In his dark chamber, the human sat alone again. But this time, he wasn't alone in spirit. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Now they believe. Now it begins."